The mighty heavens encountered a giant python seeking a title from me. It asked if I saw it as a human or a dragon. I responded immediately. You look like a 5-clawed golden dragon. It transformed into a little girl with spontaneous dragon horns. In the next moment, golden light flashed from all directions towards the giant python. The python evolved into a jade dragon. At this moment, the originally clear sky suddenly became overcast with clouds. Thunderclouds rolled and surged, just as I was about to run away in fear. The jade dragon transformed into a little girl with dragon horns. A joyful lowly voice rang out. "Thank you, benefactor." With that, the little girl took out a golden dragon scale from her bosom. The dragon scale flew towards me and hovered over my head. "Benefactor, don't run away. Stay under the dragon scale and you'll be safe." After saying this, the little girl leapt into the air and transformed into a golden dragon, charging towards the tribulation thunderclouds. At this moment, a series of clear, cold voices sounded in my mind. Dragon sealing successful. Reward, dragon body. Craftsmanship, golden light talisman. It turned out that I had awakened a system to help demons after transmigrating. As long as I helped demons, I could receive rewards. I had just triggered a system task. Seal the Jade Flood Dragon. Option 1, seal the dragon. Reward, dragon body. Craftsmanship, golden light talisman. Option 2, seal the snake. No reward. What is this golden light talisman? I called out. The system space and checked it for a while. It turns out this thing is for protection against lightning strikes, a one-time use item. At this moment, the tribulation of the Jade Dragon had already begun. The ascending Jade Dragon charged into the terrifying tribulation thundercloud formation. Within the black clouds, lightning like silver snakes began attacking the Jade Dragon. After just a few moments, Jade Dragon was instantly blasted out of the thunderclouds, plummeting towards the sea below. Fear filled the Jade Dragon's eyes. Su Lian gazed at the tribulation thunder in the sky, feeling a sense of panic. Who exactly is my benefactor? Su Lian admitted that she had appeared because she knew her benefactor was of royal blood, hoping to gain a good title. But this benefactor was also very articulate, excessively praising her. This led to the current tribulation thunder exceeding her strength. However, this was exactly what she wanted. As long as she endured this tribulation, her strength would certainly increase by several levels. After calming herself, Su Lian's body glowed with golden light, beginning to resist the terrifying tribulation thunder once more. But Su Lian had indeed underestimated this tribulation thunder. In just 3 to 5 minutes, after more than a dozen bolts of tribulation thunder struck down, the originally beautiful platinum dragon scales had turned black and purple in places. Some areas even had scales falling off, blasted by the tribulation thunder to the point of being mangled. Witnessing this shocking scene up close, I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow, thinking to myself, this isn't good. The tribulation thunder had just begun. Sure enough, the next dozen bolts of silver lightning were thicker and larger. With each bolt of silver lightning, the platinum jade dragon let out a cry of agony. Now, the jade dragon couldn't be called platinum anymore, but rather a blood dragon, its body seeping with dragon blood. At this moment, the tribulation also paused. It wasn't because the tribulation was successfully passed. It was preparing for the final strike. If this last blow could be endured, the Jade Dragon would soar up to 90,000 miles. If it couldn't be endured, it would mean death and the dissipation of the Tao. Clearly, Su Lian couldn't endure it. Su Lian was already at the end of her strength. Even a regular bolt of silver lightning, she probably couldn't withstand, let alone the final concentrated strike of the tribulation thunder. She would likely turn to dust and ashes under this last blow. Facing death and the dissipation of the Tao, Su Lian felt somewhat desperate, but also carefree. This was expected in the journey of cultivation. She had anticipated this moment. Before closing her eyes, she glanced towards my position by the shore. Su Lian just thought, if even her true form couldn't resist this tribulation, then the dragon skills she had dispersed definitely couldn't either. It probably couldn't withstand even a single blow. Benefactor, don't get struck by the tribulation. If that happens, I would have committed a great sin. Before Su Lian could finish her thoughts, she saw me standing calmly by the shore. Not only was I unharmed, but everything within a few dozen meters of me was also untouched. Other areas had been struck by thunder, leaving large craters or charred patches, but my area was completely clean, without any traces of being struck by lightning. At this moment, Su Lian saw me holding a golden talisman. With a stunned expression, the golden talisman contained boundless power. Seeing this, Su Lian understood something. In the next second, hope rekindled in her eyes. She shouted towards me by the shore, "Benefactor, save me!" "No! My dear sister, how can you tell that I can save you? It's one thing to praise you as a dragon, but now you want me to save you? How do I save you?" I was utterly confused and didn't dare respond. At the same time, the tribulation thunderclouds in the sky had gathered to a terrifying extent. The originally dark clouds had been illuminated into a silvery gray by the thunder within. I glanced at the terrifying silver thunderclouds, and then at Su Lian's vertical pupils filled with. Gazing at my own platinum jade dragon, I suddenly remembered something. Oh, right! I have a golden light amulet. This thing can protect me. Naturally, it can also protect this platinum jade dragon, but if I give it to her, what if there's more thunder to come? What should I do then? After all, from the looks of this heavenly thunder, the dragon skill she gave me probably won't be of any use at all. If I get struck dead, then in my next reincarnation, I'll ask her to find my next life to repay me. But what does the next life have to do with me? While I was pondering this, the tribulation thunder moved. That terrifying strike was about to fall. Just as the platinum jade dragon looked at me with indifference, full of despair, I gritted my teeth, shouting as I threw the golden light amulet in my hand towards the platinum jade dragon, saying, "After this is over, you must repay me well." Seeing this, the vertical pupils of the platinum jade dragon were filled with ecstatic joy. She hurriedly shouted in a delicate voice, "Su Lian will definitely repay her benefactor and protect him for life." After Su Lian finished speaking, she stretched out her dragon claw to grab the golden light amulet. But I hadn't finished shouting. I immediately added loudly, "If you don't give me 10 children, it won't count as complete." Su Lian was speechless. No time to think anymore. The heavenly thunder struck. Even with the golden light amulet in hand, the thunder was still terrifying for Su Lian. But what is what the system gives? It was still incredibly powerful. About 3 to 5 minutes later, the terrifying thunder finally dissipated slowly, but Su Lian, who was in midair, had reached her limit. With a low dragon roar, her enormous dragon body fell from the sky, crashing into the sea. With a loud boom, it was like the tide surging in the Qiantang River. The seawater flooded back, soaking me completely. When the water receded, I touched my face, only to see Su Lian unconscious on the sea. At this moment, there was a flash of golden light. Her 100-meter-long body transformed into a small dragon. Or was it a small snake? It was too far away. I couldn't see clearly. I could only see a glimmer of light on the sea surface. Quickly, this light was washed ashore by the sea. I quickly jumped down the coast, walked to the shore, and picked up the platinum jade dragon. It was no longer the majestic dragon it was before, more like a miniature version of its original form. Only the size of my palm. No dragon horns, no for legs, but the scales were still dragon scales, with golden edges. The platinum jade dragon was completely unconscious. I didn't know if it was successful or not. Looking around, Seeing the scorched earth everywhere, I was filled with fear and trepidation. After a moment of thought, I gently tucked the small dragon into my arms. You can't die. You must repay your benefactor well. If you don't give me 10 children, it won't count as complete. After tucking the small dragon, climbing ashore, I saw my servants, guards, hurrying back in a rush. As soon as they saw me, they cried and ran towards me. Young master, are you all right? I was speechless. When trouble happened, they ran faster than anyone. Now they remembered me. How dare they bump into the young master's carriage? As I rode on the horse, the system's reward book in hand, I heard the leading servant fiercely driving away the refugees. I looked up and saw a group of ragged refugees surrounding my team, reaching out their dirty hands or holding broken bowls, hoping for some alms or food. I glanced up, then continued to read. Be kind. The leading servant was taken aback, then looked at the refugees and said, move along. Don't block the way. After sending away the group of refugees, Leah returned to my side obsequiously, leading my horse and flattering me. Young master, we are almost at the imperial city. I ignored Leah, continuing to read craftsmanship in my hand. As we approached the east gate of the imperial city, there was a commotion in the distance. I looked out from my tall horse. A kanji shop, distributing kanji. Refugees holding basins and bowls were lining up for kanji. Inside the kanji shop was a young girl, looking around 17 or 18. The girl was stunningly beautiful, wearing plain clothes, like a graceful begonia. Seeing the girl in the kanji shop from afar, I curiously asked, Leah, who is the girl distributing kanji in that shop? Upon hearing my question, Leah tiptoed to check. A few seconds later, through the crowd, Leah saw the girl's face clearly, and in the next moment, his expression changed dramatically. Looking at me, he waved his hands frantically. Young master, we absolutely can't. We must not play with this woman. I was speechless. Leah's loud voice attracted the attention of the nearby refugees. I was furious. Riding my horse, I kicked Leah in the face and whispered angrily, I asked you who she is. I didn't say anything inappropriate. Am I that kind of person? After being kicked to the ground, Leah looked aggrieved. Aren't you exactly like that? Young master, every time you ask this, you always follow up with bring her back. Why are you different today? But how could a servant speak ill of his master? Leah quickly got up and smiled apologetically. It's the servant's fault. But, young master, we really can't touch this woman. She is the eldest daughter of the chief minister Gu Shiking. Gu Qingguan. Hearing Leah's words, I raised an eyebrow while riding my tall horse, pondering for a moment. Got it. Speaking of which, my grandfather is currently arranging the marriage of my cousin Liu Cheng, that esteemed grandson, with Gu Qingguan. So, Gu Qingguan is the future crown princess, which makes her my sister-in-law. As I stopped and gazed at Gu Qingguan from afar, Gu Qingguan, who was distributing kanji in the shelter, was reminded by someone beside her and looked towards me. Her beautiful eyes, like autumn water, revealed a hint of fear when she saw me. The notoriety of the capital's bully was not just talk. Soon, Gu Qingguan handed the kanji ladle to someone else and led her maid quickly out of the shelter. Coming to the front of my tall horse, she bowed and said, Greetings, young master. I was stunned, then nodded and said, Rise. Gu Shiking is your father. Although I knew, I still asked. After Gu Qingguan stood up, she nodded and replied, Yes, young master, yes. In Gu Qingguan's beautiful eyes looking at me, there was some fear and some curiosity. The fear was because Gu Qingguan had long heard about the things I had done over the years. The curiosity was because last night she heard from her father that this young master was on a flower boat in Haijin. So how come today? I did not look at Gu Qingguan, but frowned and looked at the hundreds of refugees at the kanji shop outside the imperial city. Are there so many refugees now? Gu Qingguan looked at me with some curiosity. She had heard that this young master usually acted recklessly, indulged in debauchery, and did the most heinous things. But today, why is he concerned about people's livelihoods? However, Gu Qingguan did not dare to neglect. She lightly nodded and said, "Many." But before Gu Qingguan finished speaking, I raised an eyebrow and directly said, "But many of them are not refugees, but nearby imperial city residents." Gu Qingguan was stunned when she heard my words. This young master has sharp eyes. He had only been here for a few minutes and could instantly see the problem. Well, she had been distributing kanji for several days, and only then discovered the issue. Gu Qingguan looked at the noisy crowd, lightly frowned and sighed. Young master has sharp eyes. Indeed, many imperial city residents are mixed in. Some even put on ragged clothes. There are too many people. We can't distinguish them. It's a pity that the white kanji doesn't all go to the refugee stomachs, but is taken by some greedy people. Hearing Qingguan's words, I raised an eyebrow and kicked Li beside me. "Go, get a shovel. Get a shovel of dirt and throw it into that pot of white kanji." As soon as I finished speaking, everyone around had a puzzled look. Even Li, who usually obeyed me, looked at me bewilderedly. Isn't my young master a bit too outrageous? Bullying commoners is one thing, but not even sparing the refugees. That's really bad. Haha. I like it. The next second, Li came to his senses, grabbed a shovel from the kanji shelter, and scooped a shovel of dirt. While Gu Qingguan and her maid were completely stunned. Why throw a shovel of dirt into a pot of good kanji? Gu Qingguan immediately got anxious, quickly looked at me on horseback and asked, "Young master, why are you doing this? Have the refugees offended you in any way?" I didn't look at Gu Qingguan, just stared at Li. Watching as Li threw the shovel of dirt in, the whole group of refugees immediately exploded in anger. What's going on? Isn't this bullying honest people? Suddenly, everyone angrily glared at Li. Li was scared by the refugees' murderous looks. He instantly dropped the shovel and wanted to run back, afraid that if he ran late, he would be torn apart by the refugees. But I wasn't done yet. Riding on my tall horse, I looked at Li and continued to shout, "Don't rush! Use the shovel to stir the dirt evenly. Otherwise, how can people drink it?" Hearing my words, Li had no choice but to bite the bullet. Holding the shovel, facing the murderous looks, he stirred the kanji a couple of times. After I said it was enough, he quickly dropped the shovel and ran back, with a wicked smile on his face. Feeling the thrill of doing something bad triggered a sense of evil pleasure. What happened next made the anxious Qingguan stunned. The crowd of hundreds of refugees. In just a short while, at least 30 or 40 people shook their heads, pursed their lips, and left in anger. I looked at the people in the kanji shelter in a daze and shouted loudly, "What are you staring at? Keep distributing kanji. Don't you eat dinner at home at this time?" At this moment, Gu Qingguan's exquisite face was full of surprise, seeing 30 or 40 people turning and leaving. It's clear whether they are refugees or just here for a freebie. It's more than obvious. At this moment, riding on my tall horse, I said, "Aren't refugees human? Giving them a bowl of kanji with dirt is better than having nothing at all." Gu Qingguan naturally understood this logic. Now her mind had completely turned around. After coming back to her senses, Gu Qingguan turned to look at me on my tall horse. She had only heard before that the son of King Han was debauched and immoral, spending his days idly. neglecting his duties, indulging in pleasure every day, seeing it today. Rumors can't be entirely believed, at least. Now this young master in Gu Qingguan's eyes is wise and decisive, quick-witted. Gu Qingguan looked at me and slightly bowed, saying quickly, "Thank you for your guidance, young master. Just now I was being rash." I waved my horse whip and said seriously, "It's fine. There aren't many people in the world as smart as me, the young master." My far-fetched and somewhat immodest words actually fit my persona quite well. At least, in Gu Qingguan's eyes, I am exactly that persona. At this moment, I rode my tall horse, looked at Gu Qingguan and raised an eyebrow, seeing that you're pretty. I'll say a few more words to you. If you want to save the world, you can't just spout bookish knowledge. The phrase exchange children for food in the sage's books. For you, it's just for simple words. To save the world, you must combine it with reality. This is called the unity of knowledge and action. Take this pot of white congee. White congee is naturally delicious. You usually only eat white congee. But have you ever thought, 1 pound of white congee can be exchanged for 7 pounds of cornmeal? For the same money, cornmeal can save more people. Why not replace white flour with cheaper cornmeal? Even pig feed would do. They're so hungry they'd eat tree bark. Wouldn't they eat pig feed? Qingguan originally thought the young master would say some nice words to her next, but instead she got a stern lecture, accusing her of being bookish and inflexible. Hearing my words, Gu Qingguan wanted to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. Instead, I answered my own question. You know that 1 pound of white flour can be exchanged for 7 pounds of cornmeal to save more people. You just don't want to change it. Why not change it? Because cornmeal doesn't have the same status as white flour. You're afraid of losing your father's, the chief minister's, face. After all, how can the chief minister of the current dynasty use pig feed to save people? Saving the world is not a performance. Let's go, Miss Gu. At this moment, Gu Qingguan stood in place, looking at the back of the figure riding on the tall horse. A bit stunned, Gu Qingguan really didn't expect to be lectured by this infamous rascal. However, the words that scoundrel just said, "Miss, don't listen to that wastrel's nonsense. He talks easily, but you don't see him distributing congee. He spends his days drinking and having fun on flower boats. His daily expenses could feed all the refugees for 2 days, yet he doesn't step up. Instead, he criticizes you. So annoying." The maid beside Gu Qingguan suddenly spoke up in defiance. Upon hearing the words, Gu Qingguan frowned and said lightly, "Don't talk nonsense. He is the young master." But the maid was not convinced. "So what if he's the young master? Miss, you will marry the esteemed grandson. He is also a young master, and will be the crown prince in the future. What is there to fear?" These words from the maid made Gu Qingguan a bit angry. She immediately glared and reprimanded, "How dare you? If you dare to speak again." Before Gu Qingguan finished speaking, out of the corner of her eye, she saw me, reining my horse, turning back, looking over. I was riding on my tall horse, staring expressionlessly at the maid behind her. I heard every word she said. I didn't miss a single word. At this moment, Gu Qingguan came to her senses, quickly helped the maid to plead, "Young master, it's my fault. I didn't properly discipline my maid. Please, young master, calm your anger." I looked expressionlessly at the maid, knowing she was in trouble, and trembling behind Gu Qingguan, with disdain in my heart. "Of course it's your fault. You can't even manage a servant. If you can't manage, then I'll manage for you. Leah, bring her here." Leah hadn't heard what the little maid said, but from my words, he could guess the gist. The maid must have said something improper. He was also angry, daring to insult my master. He immediately nodded, walked around Gu Qingguan and grabbed the maid's hair, dragging her towards me. The maid was dragged by her hair, pulled across the ground. Terrified, she kept shouting for the mist to save her. Just as Gu Qingguan wanted to say something, I didn't give her any chance. Raised my horse whip and swung it. With two crisp sounds. The sound was very loud, making everyone look up. Even the refugees holding broken bowls and drinking congee. I hit extremely hard. With two lashes, the maid's skin was split open. Blood flowed, but it wasn't over. I said expressionlessly, drag her aside. Slap her 30 times. Use the sole of your shoe. Li was excited, dragging the terrified, screaming maid to the side. Gu Qingguan saw this scene. Hearing her maid's cries for help, Gu Qingguan hurriedly wanted to speak. But I, looking down from above, said to Gu Qingguan, I've helped you once more. You should thank me. Gu Qingguan's beautiful face was full of astonishment, not understanding why, while I, riding on my tall horse, looked down at Gu Qingguan and said, a servant like this, I don't know how you taught her, causing trouble herself. But the first thing she does when trouble arises is hide behind her master. Today she hid behind you because of her sharp tongue. What if she causes bigger trouble in the future? What then? Gu Qingguan was speechless, staring at me in a daze. I raised my head and said, do you think if she is so unruly? What would others think? Would they only say she lacks manners? A servant daring to be sharp-tongued and mock her superior. Others would think the whole Gu family lacks manners, thinking your Gu family wants to overthrow the superior. Gu Qingguan slightly lowered her head and said nothing more. I snorted lightly and continued. Today she offended me. The young master is in a good mood today, and only whipped her twice. What if she offends someone else and brings greater disaster? I've helped your Gu family straighten up a bit. Shouldn't you thank me? Gu Qingguan was left speechless. She quickly lowered her head and said, today's matter is indeed my fault. Thank you, young master, for helping. Before Gu Qingguan could finish, I raised my head and interrupted. Of course it's your fault. You can't even manage a mere servant. Learn properly. Or else, when you become the crown princess, how will you manage the servants? How will you manage me? My words were mocking. Hearing this, Gu Qingguan was completely flustered. She quickly knelt and said, I truly have no such intention. Please, young master, do not blame me. I have never thought of becoming the crown princess. It's just that. The next moment, who was looking serious, suddenly grinned and said flippantly, it's just a servant talking nonsense. Right. Gu Qingguan knelt on the ground, looking up at me, shaking my head with a smile, like I was teasing her, a bit confused. What is this young master doing? I looked down at Qingguan and grinned. So, Miss Gu, do you understand the seriousness of this matter? Of course, I know you have no such intention. It's your maid's own idea, but she is your person. What she says, others will inevitably think it's your idea. If I were to take this matter seriously, what do you think would happen? Gu Qingguan fully understood at this moment. She breathed a sigh of relief. After coming to her senses, she quickly knelt and said earnestly, I will remember the young master's teachings. I will strictly discipline those around me. Please, young master, do not misunderstand. I have never intended to abuse my power. I grinned, pulled the reins and said, I know you didn't mean it. That's the best. But it wouldn't matter. It's human nature. Seeing that you're pretty, the young master sang a few more words. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. Hearing me praise her beauty directly again, Gu Qingguan felt a bit shy. She slightly raised her head, curiously looked at me. At this moment, I was already leading a group of people away. Looking towards the city wall, I called out to Li, let's go! Stop beating! When Li heard my call, He gave the maid another hard slap with the sole of his shoe, then put on his shoes, smiling, and ran towards me. Feeling another thrill of evil pleasure, Gu Qingguan knelt there, watching my back, blinking her beautiful eyes. She felt this young master was not at all like the rumors. Very mysterious, very intriguing. As Gu Qingguan was staring at my back in a daze, a servant hurried over. In a panic, Miss Zilan, Gu Qingguan was startled. She quickly got up and walked towards the base of the city wall. Li had been very ruthless. Zilan's face was swollen and bloody. She had been beaten unconscious. Whether she was alive or dead was unknown. Gu Qingguan looked at the maid who had grown up with her, as close as sisters, finally sighed softly and said, "Today's matter is my fault. I didn't restrain her properly before. I let her act recklessly. Forget it, forget it. Our fate is over. Find a doctor to treat her. If she still wants to work in the mansion, let her stay. If she doesn't want to, find her a good family. Let her marry. She doesn't need to stay by my side anymore." The servants around nodded repeatedly and quickly carried the maid to find a doctor. Gu Qingguan stood still, turned to look in the direction of my group. At this moment, my group had already entered the east gate and disappeared. Gu Qingguan blinked her beautiful eyes, pondered for a long time. "How many times did you slap that woman just now? How did you beat her like that?" I asked curiously. While riding my horse, I asked curiously. Li, who was leading my horse, laughed and said, "I didn't count, about 5 or 6 times. I kept beating until you called me back, young master." Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow and said, "You brat, I told you to slap her 30 times. Li shook his head and said, 30 slaps is what the young master does. The rest were the ones I wanted to hit, for her sharp tongue speaking ill of my master." You, hearing Li's words, looking at Li's expression, I laughed heartily and said, "You really have the makings of a crafty minister, a lackey." Li, seeing his master's smiling face, knew it was a joke, immediately followed with a smile, and loudly shouted, "I'll be a dog for the young master all my life." Li's servile look made me laugh even more. I completely forgot how I had just lectured Qingguan. I planned to go back for a nap. Start doing serious work early tomorrow. Today, riding a horse all day. I was a bit tired. Luckily, I used the system's dragon body reward. Otherwise, with the previous owner's body worn out by debauchery, I would have fallen apart long ago. Back in my sleeping quarters, filled with bows and arrows, swords and knives, just sat down, about to pour a cup of water. A weak voice echoed in my mind, "Benefactor." Hearing this voice, I was startled, almost forgetting. This is not Ming. This is another world. In my arms is a creature, like a dragon or a snake. I shivered a bit, then came to my senses. I took the little jade dragon, still sleeping, out of my arms. Awake now, the little jade dragon coiled up in my hand, its whole body emitting a faint golden light. Very human-like, it nodded slightly. Of course, it must be human-like. It can even speak. "Benefactor, thank you for saving my life. Zhu Lian owes her life to you." I blinked, didn't ask anything, but curiously said, "So did you succeed? Or not?" Zhu Lian's eyes shone as she said, "I did, benefactor." Hearing Zhu Lian's words, I asked curiously, "Then why is your body not transformed into a dragon? It seems to have reverted back." Hearing my words, Zhu Lian looked at me in surprise. But then, coming to her senses, Zhu Lian quickly said, "The heavenly thunder still injured a part of my spirit, but it's not a big deal. With some time to recover, I will be fine." Hearing this, I nodded and asked, "What are your plans for the future?" After I said that, a hint of shyness flashed in the little jade dragon's eyes. But she still said, When you save Su Lian today, I already promise I will protect my benefactor for life. Hearing this, I was stunned, then remembered something, and smiled awkwardly about having children. I was just babbling. Don't take it too hard. The little jade dragon in my hand didn't dare to look at me. It just softly responded. I didn't refuse the little jade dragon staying by my side. Others may not know, but I know how powerful this little jade dragon, only a few inches long, really is. In case I can't defeat the esteemed grandson. In case the esteemed grandson truly wants to kill my whole family in the future, I can rely on this little jade dragon to save my family. Then I grinned and said, my name is Liu Ryan. I'm 17 this year. Let's help each other out from now on. Su Lian nodded and solemnly said, I dare not teach my benefactor. Su Lian thanks the benefactor for taking me in. To this, I didn't say more, but curiously asked, so you're a female, right? Do you have a true form? Can you transform? Can you transform for me to see? Su Lian was a bit taken aback. The benefactor seems to know a lot about cultivation, but the benefactor is clearly just a mortal. Though strange, Su Lian still immediately answered my question. Su Lian has a true form, but now my spirit is severely damaged. I cannot transform. Please, benefactor, wait a few more days. I blinked, then rummaged under my bed and took out a picture. This is a collection of the original owners, the most famous in Jianghuai region, a portrait of Liu Ryan, known as the #1 dancer in the world. I pointed at the picture and asked, how does your true form compare to hers? Su Lian turned her head and looked for a few seconds before saying coolly, I think I'm prettier than her. I blinked, then pointed at Liu Ryan in the picture and asked, here and here. Are they bigger than hers? Su Lian shyly said, my waist is also thinner than hers. Hearing this, I took a deep breath. Wow, seems like I found a treasure. Of course, such things. Once the excitement passes, I won't ask any more. Anyway, once Su Lian recovers, I'll know everything. Right now, I'm more curious about another question. Are there many others like you in this world? Or are you unique? I suddenly asked, and Su Lian coiled on my chest. I'm not unique. Oh, I'm curious. And Su Lian fell into deep thought, then slowly said, 1,000 years ago, Haijin City was a desolate place. There were 3 700-year-old celestial dogs trying to devour the moon, eventually captured by divine thunder. 500 years ago, there was a green snake. Hearing this, I was startled, then excitedly asked, is her name Ziqing? Su Lian was a bit stunned, then looked surprised and asked, how does the benefactor know? I didn't respond to that. Instead, I quickly asked, where is she now? Su Lian blinked her dragon eyes and said, I devoured her. I raised her for 70 years. In the end, she wanted to consume me. Su Lian's voice sounded a bit aggrieved. So Bai Sujin and Ziqing are indeed fictional. Then Su Lian continued recalling, 200 years ago, a large ship sank in the sea. Over 70 people on board turned into vengeful spirits. Later, a monk came to chant and liberate them. I watched curiously from the side. The monk also tried to capture me. I devoured him. Su Lian then recalled many other instances, but mostly about small demons. Su Lian liked peace and quiet, perhaps because of the previous incident with the little green snake. Since then, Su Lian had always been alone. She only had brief encounters with those small demons. After listening to Su Lian, I was puzzled and said, so there are indeed many demons and ghosts in this world. But why? In all my years, besides you, I've never seen any others. My grandparents also never saw any. They only heard rumors. Su Lian was silent for a moment, then said, because you are of royal blood. Not only do you have noble aura, but also the protection of imperial power. Ordinary evil spirits dare not come close. I blinked. It seemed those around me, all wealthy and noble, indeed had never seen ghosts or monsters. Most rumors came from common folks, and such folklore rarely caused much stir. I curiously asked again, "Then why do you dare to show yourself before me?" Su Lian said seriously, "Because I never get involved in human affairs. I practice the righteous path, not an evil spirit. Naturally, I am not afraid." Hearing Su Lian's words, I grinned and said, "Right, I almost forgot. You have transformed into a dragon and passed the tribulation. You belong to the celestial family." Su Lian looked at me curiously and said, "It seems that the benefactor knows about ghosts and monsters, but not thoroughly. You know about transformation and ascension, but some other things you seem not to understand." I was stunned for a moment, then laughed to cover it up and said, "I've read some strange ancient books, so I know a little." Su Lian nodded slightly, not doubting. I wanted to say more. "For example, can you teach me to cultivate? After all, I now have a dragon body, no longer immortal." I also wanted to ask if there are gods in this world. Since there are monsters, there must be gods, right? There were too many things to ask. Really, it would take 3 days and nights to finish, but there's no rush to know everything right now. Talking about this, I started to feel drowsy. Coiled on my chest, Su Lian watched me as I began to snore lightly, blinking her vertical pupils. Then, with a flash of golden light, an exceptionally beautiful and cool figure appeared in my room. The woman looked like a celestial being descending to the mortal world, mature and dignified, noble and elegant, much more beautiful than Qingguan I saw today. Especially when the moonlight shines through the window on the lady, that hazy sense of mystery, an indescribable beauty. Looking at me sleeping soundly on the bed, Su Lian's lips curled into a beautiful arc, gently removing my clothes, shoes, and socks off. For Su Lian, who has cultivated for thousands of years, it's the first time doing this, inevitably a bit blushing. But since she wants to serve her benefactor for a lifetime, this kind of thing needs to be adapted sooner or later. Finally removing my shoes, socks, and clothes properly, Su Lian looked at my face, carefully and seriously gazing. A hint of blush appeared on her cold face. "Benefactor, so handsome!" A golden light flashed. Su Lian turned back into a small jade dragon, crawled into my quilt, quietly guarding. At this moment, I woke up and saw myself naked, then looked at the small jade dragon head poking out from the quilt. I was a bit dumbfounded and said, "Did you undress me?" Su Lian nodded obediently. "Leave me some shorts next time. Mortals don't sleep fully naked." Su Lian nodded. "Understood, benefactor." And after I put on my clothes, I went out and looked around, shouted at a small side room next to me, "Li." I barely finished my shout when I heard Lia's voice from inside the room, shouting back, "Coming, young master. Why are you up so early today?" I didn't say much, just said, "Hurry up. Bring more people. I have something to do today." Li stood at his door, while tying his waistband, nodding repeatedly and said, "All right, young master. You go have breakfast first. It will be ready after you eat." Although Leah said so, he was still a bit puzzled. "So early? The flower houses and such places don't open this early. Where are we going today?" At this moment, I suddenly got up and ran towards the stables of Han Wang Mansion, leaving Leah dumbfounded and said, "Master, where are you going?" I didn't respond, ran wildly towards the stables. At this moment, a panel appeared in front of me. Save the nine-tailed fox. The current location of the fox, about 7 miles south of the Imperial City. Option 1, save the fox. Reward, divine clothes. Option 2, do not save the fox. Penalty, reduce little brother by 10 centimeters. At this moment, I rode my horse madly out of the south gate, heading straight south. finally arrived. I sat on my tall horse and looked around, saw a cornstalk swaying in the cornfield, then looked up at the sky. An eagle was circling. The eagle seemed to be hunting the fox. Watching the eagle circling in the sky, the artistic form, I immediately pulled the reins, drove my tall horse directly into the field, rushed towards the swaying corn stalks. The corn in the field was growing well, very dense. Even though I was on a tall horse, I could see the direction of the swaying, but couldn't see what kind of fox it was. However, when I rode down, the fox seemed to sense something, rushed towards me. I saw the corn stalks swaying, heading towards me. Before I could react, the corn stalks swayed right in front of me. Then a shadow leapt up, rushed into my arms, trembling. I was a bit stunned holding the fox. Looked down, saw it was a fox, its fur incredibly soft. Holding the fox, looking up at the eagle overhead. Naturally, I could tell the eagle was not an ordinary creature. This fox was a demon fox, able to hunt a white fox. This eagle was probably a demon too. Would it come down and scratch me? At this moment, Su Lian's voice sounded from under my sweat-drenched shirt. Benefactor's destiny is bright, and you are of royal blood, blessed by imperial fortune. It dares not. Hearing this, I was still a bit flustered, riding my horse out of the cornfield. Along the path I came, preparing to return. There was no need to rush back. Just strolling back slowly was fine. However, the eagle seemed a bit relentless, kept circling in the sky behind me, as if trying to snatch the fox in my arms. This made me feel uneasy, a bit uncomfortable, occasionally looking back, afraid the eagle might swoop down and scratch me. As I looked back several times, Su Lian suddenly emerged from my sweat-drenched shirt. A golden figure soared towards the sky, accompanied by a majestic and awe-inspiring, heart-trembling dragon roar. Begone! Su Lian soared to the heavens, a small jade dragon, her size insignificant before the eagle. But as soon as Su Lian appeared, the eagle seemed stunned, and with just one word from Su Lian, the eagle instantly turned around, fled in a blink of an eye. Then Su Lian fell back into my arms, her cold vertical pupils gazing at me with some affection. She softly said, "Chased it away." Looking at Su Lian in my shirt, I couldn't help but chuckle. Ziyanyan is really formidable. Was that also a demon? Su Lian nodded slightly and said, "Yes, a demon. About 300 years of cultivation." I nodded slightly, then looked at the fox in my arms. The fox seemed also frightened by the dragon roar. Its gaze towards Su Lian was filled with fear. I lifted the fox by its front legs, examining it. "Female," I blinked and said. "Is she like my big yellow dog?" Seems unable to speak. Probably ate some heavenly treasures or something. But this time Su Lian shook her head and said, "She has 100 years of cultivation. Open her intelligence, like me." I looked at the white fox in my hands in astonishment and said, "But she doesn't seem to talk." Just as I finished speaking, a golden light flashed. A beautiful and cold figure appeared in my arms. Before I could react, Su Lian immediately reached out her jade hand and grabbed the fox's neck from my hands. Her voice was extremely cold, with a threat. "Stop pretending," with Su Lian's cold voice. A few seconds later, the fox stammered in human speech, "Thank you, benefactor, for saving my life." At this moment, holding Su Lian, my face was pressed against Su Lian's shoulder. Holding Su Lian felt too comfortable. In the scorching midday sun, it was unbearably hot. But Su Lian's presence was cool and refreshing. Extremely comfortable. The previously cold-faced Su Lian now had a hint of blush on her exquisite face. Her expression somewhat flustered. "Benefactor." She spoke. I didn't let go of Su Lian as I came to my senses. Instead, I hugged Su Lian even tighter, pressing my whole body against her. I looked at the white fox in Su Lian's hand curiously. What's your name? Where do you live? Why was the eagle chasing you? The white fox looked at me and said softly, Benefactor, my name is Liu Ryan. I was originally a dancer in the Jianghua area. Hearing this, I was stunned for a moment. You are the #1 dancer in the world, Liu Ryan. At this moment, Su Lian loosened her jade hand. The fox immediately leapt down with a flash of pink light. A supremely enchanting woman appeared, kneeling on the ground. Benefactor, it is indeed me. When the fox slightly raised her head and looked at me, I took a deep breath. It really is Liu Ryan. Don't I have a portrait of Liu Ryan at home? This appearance! She is 100 times more beautiful than in the portrait. A distinctive tear mole at the corner of her eye. It's real, especially now with such a weak look. No man in the world could resist. I stared blankly at Liu Ryan below. She is infinitely more alluring than in the portrait. This beauty and seductiveness is unparalleled. Below, Liu Ryan looked at me with a face full of fear, as if worried about what I might do to her. But soon, I raised an eyebrow and said, weren't you in the Jianghua area? How did you end up in the imperial city? Liu Ryan first hesitated. Then her enchanting eyes suddenly filled with tears. Her voice was extremely aggrieved, crying pitifully. I was deprived of my livelihood. Saying this, Liu Ryan could no longer hold back her sorrow, weeping and complaining. 10 years ago, after I refined my true form, I dedicated myself to the study of dance and music, finally achieving great success, famous throughout the world. But these good days didn't last long. I was targeted by an old demon from Black Mountain. He wanted to take me day and night. I would rather die than submit. He then sent a red fox to impersonate me, taking over my wealth and status. Saying this, Liu Ryan cried even more sorrowfully, extremely heartbroken. I sighed as I held Su Lian on my horse. This is understandable. At this moment, Liu Ryan continued to sob and said, I heard that the imperial city has auspicious energy, blessed with imperial fortune. The old demon from Black Mountain wouldn't dare to act rashly, so I thought of coming here for protection. But I somehow offended that demon eagle. As soon as I entered the Hygiene area, I was targeted by that demon eagle, chased me all the way here. Hearing this, I sighed helplessly. She's also a poor soul. Then I said, the imperial city is just ahead. I believe that Black Eagle wouldn't dare to follow. What are your plans for the future? At this moment, Liu Ryan knelt on the ground, looked up at me pitifully and shook her head slightly. I don't know. Saying this, Liu Ryan shed a few more tears, looking at me and crying, please, benefactor, take me in. I am willing to serve you for life, to be your humble servant. Hearing this, I blinked. Without much hesitation, I nodded and said, come on up. I'll take you home. Sing me agree. Liu Ryan immediately nodded with joy, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, looked at Su Lian who was in my arms. At this moment, Su Lian blushed slightly and said softly, benefactor. I knew what Su Lian meant. Immediately, I was reluctant and said, oh well, hold on for a while. Turn back when we are near the imperial city. Su Lian's exquisite face blushed deeply. Then she lowered her head and softly responded. I looked at Liu Ryan below and raised an eyebrow. Since you have been deprived of your livelihood, naturally, I could no longer use my previous identity. From now on, I had to transform into my fox form in front of others, revealing my true nature to avoid any potential trouble. Liu Ryan nodded repeatedly. Then, in a flash of pink light, she transformed into her fox form, leaping back onto the horse. Being held by Su Lian, I felt the soft jade-like warmth of Su Lian. As we leisurely returned to the imperial city, that night when I returned to my room, I opened the door and saw an enchanting woman, so beautiful she could ruin a nation. sitting on my bed. At that moment, Liu Ryan seemed lost in thought, her brows furrowed with worrying. But upon seeing me return, she immediately concealed her anxiety and obediently rose to her feet, kneeling before me and said softly, "Master Feng, you are back. I shall serve you as you wash up." Before I could say anything, I heard a light sound. The wish of the nine-tailed fox. Option 1. Help Liu Ryan reclaim her identity. Reward, War God. This mission is dangerous. First, a temporary reward, War God. Note, the mission must be completed within 30 days. Looking at the mature, seductive, and alluring Liu Ryan before me, I nodded silently and said, "All right." Seeing my agreement, Liu Ryan then went to fetch the wooden basin and towel. After I sat down, Liu Ryan brought the basin over, kneeling before me. Her face gentle and tender, she said, "Benefactor, let me wash your feet first." With that, she took off my shoes and socks. I remained silent, allowing Liu Ryan to wash my feet. At this moment, Liu Ryan, while washing my feet, occasionally glanced up at me. "Ryan," I said, "how do you feel today?" Liu Ryan was startled, then looked at me with a gentle smile and said, "Very good. Benefactor cares for me. Thank you, Benefactor, for taking me in, giving me a place to stay again." Hearing Liu Ryan's words, I raised an eyebrow and said, "Do you like it this way now? Don't you want to be Liu Ryan again? The young master can help you." As I finished speaking, tears streamed down Liu Ryan's face. "Benefactor, I am so heartbroken." Liu Ryan began to cry bitterly, and I quickly comforted her, saying, all right. Don't cry, don't cry. I will definitely seek justice for you." Liu Ryan's enchanting face was filled with joy, but as she wiped her tears, she expressed some concern. "I have nothing to repay you with. Once I regain my identity, I will serve you day and night. But that Black Mountain old demon is truly powerful. Benefactor should plan carefully." Seeing Liu Ryan in this state, I slightly lifted my head and said proudly, "We must plan carefully. Do you think the young master would be afraid of that damned Black Mountain old demon?" Speaking of this, I quickly added, "Besides, you have your sister Leon, right? Isn't that right? Little Yanyan? Su Leon with a black line on her forehead." Yes. Liu Ryan felt a sourness, truly moved to the point of being speechless. She wished she could take out her own heart and offer it to her benefactor. "Yanyan," she said seriously, "you are the benefactor's servant. Only the benefactor can bully you. No one else can. If anyone dares to bully you, the benefactor will skin them alive." As I finished speaking, tears streamed down Liu Ryan's face again. Seeing this, I asked in confusion, "Why are you crying again for no reason? Didn't I say I would help you? And it will definitely succeed, right? Don't worry, a mere Black Mountain old demon. The benefactor will easily handle it." Liu Ryan, after sobbing for a while, looked at me pitifully and said, "I believe in the benefactor's strength. I'm crying because the benefactor treats me so well. It's the first time someone has treated me like this." Hearing Liu Ryan's words, I looked at her strangely and said, "That can't be. You are the #1 dancer in the world. The line of people who like you stretches from the Imperial City to Dali. How could no one have treated you well before?" Liu Ryan wiped away her tears, then sighed and said, "They weren't sincere. They were just lusting after my body. I knew it in my heart." I blinked. "Oh, I see. Actually, your benefactor is also ... interested." After washing my feet, Liu Ryan knelt by my legs, gently massaging them, kneading my legs. I felt her movements, and when I looked down, I saw Liu Ryan giving me an incredibly charming and gentle smile. I couldn't resist, and reached out to touch her face. However, it felt like petting an animal, so I stopped my hand. Liu Ryan's eyes sparkled with joy, and she quickly moved her beautiful face closer, pressing it against my hand. gently rubbing against it, like a little puppy snuggling up to its owner. Oh my! Who can resist this? I read until late at night, then got up to go to bed. As I was about to undress, Liu Ryan, with a trembling voice, said, "Benefactor, let me serve you." I turned to look and saw Liu Ryan standing beside me, not daring to look at me. I was puzzled and said, "It's just a shirt and shorts. I can undress myself. There's a side room. Go rest there." "What are you doing?" Before I could finish speaking, I saw Liu Ryan already starting to undress. As I finished speaking, Liu Ryan's hand stopped. She looked at me nervously, her expression showing a bit of grievance. "Benefactor, are you displeased with me?" "Please don't be displeased. I am pure. I am a clean courtesan. I only perform, I don't sell my body. No man has ever touched me." "It's not that," I said. "The problem is that Su Lian is standing right there. I swear, I am not a eunuch, nor a monk. There aren't many men who could resist this. If Su Lian weren't here, I might actually take her. But the problem is, now is not the time. With Su Lian here, how could I? Especially given my persona, which is not that of a lecherous man." I tried to control my physical reaction and said seriously, "Benefactor understands your feelings, but the task is not done yet. How can there be a reward already? Benefactor is not that kind of person. Once I catch that Black Mountain old demon and restore your identity, then we can talk about this." Liu Ryan was startled and quickly said, "I am not trying to trade my body for your help. I decided this because I admire you and am grateful to you. No one has ever treated me this way. I am willing." Liu Ryan said, shyly trailing off at the end. I nodded repeatedly and said earnestly, "I understand. The benefactor understands your meaning, and the benefactor respects you. When the matter is settled, wouldn't it be more fitting?" Liu Ryan's eyes sparkled with a mix of emotions. "Benefactor, you truly are a gentleman, but I hope you know I have already devoted myself to you as my master. Whenever you desire me, I am at your service. You don't need to hold back." I continued speaking, nodding as I climbed into bed and took off my shoes. I understood. With that, I intended to ask Liu Ryan to leave. Otherwise, my physical reaction, coupled with my seriousness, would be quite ridiculous. However, as soon as I lay down, before I could say a word, I felt a cool, soft sensation gently brushing against me. My body stiffened slightly as Liu Ryan climbed into bed with me. Her sensual, enticing body pressed against mine. I swallowed hard, and before I could speak, Liu Ryan, her alluring face close to my neck, whispered shyly, "Benefactor, it is hot in the summer. My body is cool. Sleeping like this is more comfortable." Before I could respond, I felt another cool sensation on my right side. Turning my head, I saw Su Lian looking at me with a serious, cold expression, and she said, "My body is also cool."